This is an unbelievable story. You're gonna think I made this up, but I didn't. Coming up, she wasn't a singer and she'd never earned a penny performing. She was the babysitter, and she hadn't even been feeling that duty for too long. But when an emerging songwriting couple handed her a song that they'd written for somebody else that was rejected, and they asked her to give it a shot, what happened next was nothing short of remarkable. With one joyful, unpolished take, this song became an unstoppable hit, and it sparked a craze and launched an unlikely sensation. This song would not only hit #1, but it would be a hit over and over and over again for many different artists over the next few decades. I mean, get this, it was a #1 hit 4 times by a rock band and 2 foreign acts as well. They'd all take it to the top of the charts. This is the story of how a household helper became a star, and oh, how quickly a star can fade. The chronicle of this bittersweet journey and the anthem that outlived it all is coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you ever bought the latest issue of Archie magazine or the digests and read those as a kid, you're gonna dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below right now. I know you'll find something to dig on this channel. We have a lot of great interviews and videos coming out. Also check out our Patreon and check out our t-shirt of the day, Judas Priest. 80stees.com, the link is down there, it's right up here. Thousands of the coolest t-shirts you'll ever find. So Gerry Goffin and Carole King were one of the most prolific songwriting duos of the rock era. No question. Gerry crafted the lyrics, Carole composed the melodies for dozens of unforgettable hits that define 1960s pop culture. Their partnership skyrocketed in 1960 when the Shirelles took their song, Will You Love Me Tomorrow, to #1, marking the beginning of their incredible success. Now, Gerry planted the seeds of a song in the back of his mind for a few years, but he never found the right moment to bring it to the forefront. When he sat down to write it at last, he knew his wife and writing partner Carole King would think that the song was kind of silly. So he defended it in the setup before unveiling it to her. He said, "This is gonna sound stupid, but what the hell? Don't all the biggest fads start out that way?"
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now.
Now, Carole had a sharp instinct for a hit. Instead of poking fun of the lyrics like Gerry expected her to do, she came up with a melody that she thought sounded like a locomotive. That sound became the spark for what would become the Loco-motion, a song the 4 different acts would take to #1, including Little Eva and Grand Funk Railroad.
So come on, do the locomotion with me. Chance now. Come on, baby, do the locomotion.
Now, the inspiration behind the Locomotion may trace back to 2 brill-building hits, Uptown and Spanish Harlem, produced by Phil Spector. Actually, in Don Kirshner, The Man with the Golden Ear, Rich Podolsky recounts how Al Kirshner of Alden Music couldn't quite understand the appeal of these songs, but he encouraged his writers to create what he described as songs I don't understand. Another spark came from Mashed Potato Time by Dee Dee Sharp, part of the mashed potato dance craze of that time. Kirshner gathered his top writers, noting Sharp's popularity in 1962, and he shared that the label Cameo Parkway Records was seeking a follow-up hit. His challenge to him? Let's give them a song that they can't turn down. So Gerry and Carole originally had Dee Dee Sharp in mind for the Loco-motion. Definitely fit that vibe. Gerry and Carole, along with their legendary boss Don Kirshner, all thought the Loco-motion was a no doubt about it hit. So they launched a plan to make a demo with a female lead vocal that sounded, pretty similar to Dee Dee Sharp. Popular story of how the Loco-motion came to be was the one where Carole King was playing the demo at home while their nanny and housekeeper Eva Boyd was doing chores, and she started dancing to it. That went around for a long time. However, that story is not accurate. In reality, Eva Boyd, who was working for Gerry and Carole, were impressed by her singing voice, so they invited her to record the Loco-motion demo that was intended for Dee Dee Sharp. That was her sole objective at the time. But it is true that Eva did start dancing to it, and that dance became the Loco-motion. More on that in a second. So let's dig a little deeper. In the summer of '59, Eva Boyd, the 10th of 16 children, was just a teenager filled with excitement as she headed to Coney Island to spend her school break with her older brother Jimmy and his wife. For a girl from Belhaven, North Carolina, the Big Apple was like another planet, pulsating, breathtaking, and full of possibilities. I mean, the pull of the city was strong, and after a taste of its vibrant energy, she found it hard to settle back into small-town life. So in 1960, Eva made a big decision. She quit school, she packed her things up, she caught a bus back to the Empire City, and she landed a job as a maid in Hempstead, Long Island. Now, little did she know that her journey would soon take her straight to the heart of the music scene. Eva's sister-in-law had connections with Earl Jean McCrae, who was a member of the Cookies, a well-known vocal group working on demos for music publisher Don Kirshner. This opened the door into the buzzing hub of Kirshner's album music. Company he ran with Al Nevins, where some of the most exciting new songwriters were getting their start. Among them were, of course, Carole King and Gerry Goffin, who had just watched their song Will You Love Me Tomorrow soar to #1 with the Shirelles. Talked about that. The success of that single was so big, it was so huge, Carole and Gerry decided to go all in on songwriting. They became the hot writers on the scene, but they also had a lot going on at home. They had a 2-year-old daughter, Louise, and a baby, Sherry, on the way, and Carole and Gerry, they needed help. Now, connecting with Eva, that was a boon for Carole and Gerry because they were so strapped for time. All three of them were pretty young at that moment. Gerry was 22, Carole was 21. Eva, I think, had just turned 19. Meanwhile, the Cookies were shaking up their lineup and they needed a new member. Earl Jean McCrae saw Eva's bubbly personality and she encouraged her to try out for both a backup singing role and a personal assistant job. So Eva took a chance performing Will You Love Me Tomorrow as her audition piece, kind of interesting. Well, that paid off. She landed both gigs, and in 1961, she moved into Carole King and Gerry Goffin's apartment in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. Carole paid Eva $35 a week to babysit their daughter Louise and clean the house. She even shared a room with Louise. The Cookies, who had previously released a few singles of their own, were now primarily known as a powerhouse session group. They'd backed a long list of Atlantic stars like Joe Turner, Laverne Baker, Ruth Brown, Chuck Willis, and most notably Ray Charles, doubling as the Raylettes. A lot of people don't know that. Lately, they'd also been lending their voices to demos for Alden writers like Neil Sedaka. Then in March of 1962, Eva joined the Cookies for a 4-song session with Ben E. King. Her voice can be heard distinctly on tracks like Gloria Gloria and the memorable Don't Play That Song You Lied. Carole and Gerry were very fond of Eva, and they knew she could sing. So they had this bright idea to have Eva sing the lead vocal on the demo for the Loco-motion, the one that they were going to submit to Dee Dee Sharp, singing it kind of like Dee Dee. Gerry himself produced the session for the demo, and they were ready to go. It was a great session. Now, reflecting on those sessions, Artie Kaplan, who played the saxophone on it, he spoke about how it shaped the now legendary track. He said, I contracted the Loco-motion sessions and I chose the musicians that I knew would be perfect. Buddy Saltzman on drums and Charlie Macy on guitar and bass. I mean, Kaplan played 5 saxophone overdubs on baritone and tenor sax. He even laid down that iconic solo to give the song the feel of a full orchestra. Carole King, who also wrote the arrangement, brought her piano magic to the session, while the Cookies, Alden's own R&B vocal group, filled in with their soulful harmonies. And then there was Eva Boyd's unmistakable voice that brought that track to life. It was a great demo. This was all under the watchful eyes of Gerry Goffin and engineer Ron Johnson at Dick Charles Recording Studios in New York City. They thought the demo was great. When the demo was ready, Artie Kaplan brought it to Cameo Parkway, hoping for a bite, hoping for somebody to pick it up. But you know what? Cameo producer Bernie Lowe barely let it play 60 seconds before he took the needle off the record. He said, I didn't hear the hook. He dismissed it on the spot. Kaplan just shrugged and took the demo back to Alden. It wasn't going to be a Dee Dee Sharp song. But you know, I wonder what Bernie Lowe's face looked like later that summer when he heard the song blaring from every radio in America. I mean, by July, the Locomotion was at the top of the charts and just starting its timeless fascination in pop culture. It would be the very first single released by Alden's new label, Dimension Records.
Move around the floor in a locomotion.
I mean, when Dee Dee Sharp and her label rejected the Locomotion, it left the door wide open for babysitter Eva Boyd. Carol and Gerry, they loved her demo, and Don Kirshner was over the moon about it as well. And he said, "Who needs Dee Dee Sharp? This song is a smash."
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now. Come on, baby.
Now, fueled by Don Kirshner's excitement, Gerry and Carol whisked Eva off to Mira Sound, their go-to studio for master recordings. They were aiming to re-record the Locomotion, make it sound better. But no matter how hard they tried, they just couldn't capture the magic of that original demo. So with a few added vocal overdubs by Carole King and Eva herself, the demo became the official release of the Locomotion. They put the demo out. Then came the rush of the spotlight. You know, Eva is a budding star. And standing less than 5 feet tall, she was rebranded as Little Eva, with Kirshner's publicity team even trimming 2 years off her age to complete the image. Now, I should mention that Eva's family called her Little Eva as well, so she was used to that name before the nickname was pressed to vinyl, so there's that. The Locomotion was another example of the dance craze music that was especially popular, you know, in the late 50s into the 60s. Songs like Twist and Shout by the Isley Brothers, Peppermint Twist by Joey Dill and the Starlighters, Do the Funky Chicken by Rufus Thomas, and of course, The Twist by Chubby Checker, one of the biggest songs of all time, written by Hank Ballard when he saw a bunch of teenagers grinding their torsos on the dance floor in 1958. Now, when the Locomotion was first written, there wasn't a specific dance attached to it. It was just a catchy song. But once the song became a massive hit, Eva Boyd took it upon herself to create a dance to go with it. She actually started dancing to it when she started singing it. So part of that story is true. Carole King mentioned this in her one-to-one concert video. In live performances, you can actually see Little Eva performing her own version of the dance, adding a whole new layer to the iconic track.
Swing your hips now. Come on, baby.
The Locomotion ended up being a much bigger song than Mashed Potato Song. That's the tune it was fashioned after. The Locomotion by Little Eva caught on everywhere. It was a #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100. It also went to #1 in Sweden, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa, and Norway. Just missed the top in the UK, Israel, and Japan, where it peaked at #2.
Do it nice and easy now. Don't lose control. A little bit of...
However, after the hit, Eva found herself typecast as a dance craze singer, and the songs that she was given became increasingly limited in scope. Eva also released several other singles, including Keep Your Hands Off My Baby. That one hit #12. And Let's Turkey Trot. That one reached #20. Both those tracks were written by Goffin and King. Actually, the Beatles covered Keep Your Hands Off My Baby as well. The only known footage of Little Eva performing the Locomotion comes from a brief clip on the 1960s ABC live show Shindig. Remember that one? It's where she performed a short version of the song along with its iconic dance moves. In a 1991 Richard Nader concert, she performed Locomotion and Keep Your Hands Off My Baby. Though the concert was partially documented on videotape, the quality of the footage was pretty poor. In 1963, Eva was booked for Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars national tour. Plans to perform at the 15th show scheduled for the night of November 22nd at the Memorial Auditorium in Dallas, Texas. But that event was abruptly canceled that Friday evening, just moments after U.S. President John F. Kennedy was killed while touring Dallas in that infamous open car caravan.
Right down toward us and toward our fine camera positions here.
Everyone of a certain age knows the Locomotion, that's for sure. But sometimes the real story behind such iconic moments, both shocking and sad. And in this case, even with a jovial party tune like the Locomotion, it is sadly true. There's been a long-standing rumor that Little Eva was paid only $50 for the Locomotion. However, while she never owned the rights to her recordings, it appears that $50 was actually her weekly salary during the year she was recording, an increase of $15 from what Goffin and King had paid her while she worked as their nanny and housekeeper. Now, as the years rolled on, Eva kept recording through the 60s, but by 1964, it was pretty clear that her moment had passed. I mean, the music scene had shifted, and with it, her place in it. By 1971, with little more than faded dreams, she stopped chasing the dream. Broken, disillusioned, Eva had never seen the royalties she was owed for her earlier successes. She left it all behind and she returned to North Carolina with her 3 children. The life that they had there was quiet. It was far from the fame that she'd once known. In the end, they lived in relative obscurity, far from the bustling music world that had briefly embraced her when she was a huge star. Now, Eva was rediscovered by promoters of the 60s nostalgia circuit in 1987, and she performed on some oldies shows until 2001 when she was diagnosed with cervical cancer. 2 years later, on April 10, 2003, Eva lost her battle with the disease. Her passing left behind a family who loved her dearly. She was survived by 2 daughters, 2 sons, 15 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren, all of whom carried on her memory. She also left behind 2 brothers and 3 sisters who would remember her in their own quiet, loving ways. Actually, for years, her grave remained largely unmarked and overlooked, until 2008, when a television station in Raleigh, North Carolina drew attention to it. Donations were gathered and a new gray gravestone was erected featuring the image of a steam locomotive. The epitaph reads, "Singing with the Angels." The Loc-motion by Little Eva sold over 1 million copies and earned a gold disc for its success. It became the second song in history to reach #1 by 2 different artists in America. The first to do that was Go Away Little Girl, also written by the incredible partnership of Goffin and King. It's one of just 9 songs to achieve this rare feat, going to #1 twice. The second time the Loc-motion went to #1 was in 1974 with a very cool rockin' version by Grand Funk Railroad, produced by Todd Rundgren. Here's what Mark told me about it.
I had gone home for lunch, which was across the street from the studio. My farmhouse was set on the hill over there. And we lived on a dirt road, and I was coming back. It's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. Everybody's doing a brand, you know. And then the guys in the parking lot do the background. Come on, baby. And as I come around the corner, and now I can see the band and the techs and everybody's out having a smoke in the parking lot, and I'm still singing. Yeah. They're still singing the backgrounds, and Rundgren walks out of the end of the studio, out the door, and he says, "What the hell is that?" I said, "What is that?" "That's Little Eva, man. That's the Loc-motion." He says, "Well, get your asses in here right now, because we're going to do it. We're going to record that song right now."
Grand Funk Railroad's unplanned rendition of the Loc-motion was on top of the Billboard Hot 100 and the Canadian Top Singles chart for 2 straight weeks in May of 1974. Gerry Goffin and Carole King's The Loc-motion nearly rang the #1 bell a 3rd time on the Billboard Hot 100 in America, when Australian pop star Kylie Minogue took her cover of the tune to #3 in 1988. However, Kylie's version, it did go to #1 in her home country. So technically, Loc-motion did hit the top of the singles chart 3 times, over 3 generations, 60s, 70s, and the 80s. And you know what? It actually hit #1 a 4th time, well, the 2nd time. In 1962, a French singer, Sylvie Vartan, she recorded a cover of the Loc-motion in French called Llllocomation, and it hit #1. So 4 times it hit #1. But let's jump ahead to July of '87. Kylie released her debut single, a remake of the Loc-motion, titled simply Loc-motion. The release came after an impromptu performance of the song with her castmates from the soap opera Neighbors, at an Australian rules football charity event, which caught the attention of Mushroom Records. They quickly signed her to release the track as a single. Initially recorded with a big band vibe, the song's direction shifted dramatically when producer Mike Duffy, on loan from Pete Waterman's UK label PWL, stepped in to rework the sound. Kylie's cover was the only version of the Loco-motion to reach #1 in Australia. It also hit #1 in Canada, Finland, and Ireland, and it hit #2 in South Africa and the UK, and of course #3 here. In a 1988 interview, after Kylie Minogue's version of the Loco-motion became a bona fide international hit, Eva Boyd admitted that she wasn't a fan of the remake. However, the song's renewed popularity opened the door for her to make a comeback in show business, leading her to be booked in the oldies touring circuit, so there was a positive there. Carole King recorded her own version of Loco-motion for her 1980 album Pearl's Songs of Goffin and King. That reached #44 in the charts, and it included her last top 40 hit to date, One Fine Day, which peaked at #12.
Come on, baby, do the locomotion. Come on.
The story of the Loco-motion is a testament to the power of a great song, one that defies generations, genres, and even the ups and downs of its performers. From Little Eva's original version to reinventions by Grand Funk Railroad and Kylie Minogue, this catchy dance hit has proven that it's more than just a pop song. I mean, it's become a cultural phenomenon that brings people together across decades. Everybody knows this song. Though Eva Boyd's own journey had its challenges, her voice and spirit lives every time that the Loco-motion hits the airwaves. The Babysitter became a huge star with a song that keeps us all dancing, reminding us of the timeless joy that music can bring, even if you don't get paid your royalties. I'm kind of pissed about that. Leave us a comment about this great song. Tell us about it below. What are your memories of it? What do you think is the best version of it? I am still so frustrated that Eva didn't get paid her royalties. I mean, that was the case with so many artists in the 50s and 60s into the early 70s. And something's got to be done about that. I should do an episode on that. Let me know if you'd like to see that. Let's have a great discussion below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. Grab your t-shirt, Judas Priest below. Let's have a great time. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.